Thank you very much, Phil, for having this conversation about your faith journey. And the first thing to ask is, when's your sense of where the journey started?
Well, we were very much a Christian family when I was a youngster. We were very regular churchgoers, 3 times each Sunday, Holy Communion, Matins and Evensong, and Sunday school in the afternoon as well. My father was a church warden. My mother was very much involved in the Mothers' Union. We all sang in the choir, and I helped our rector, who sadly only had one arm, by helping to serve at the altar. So it was very much a Christian upbringing. That continued into secondary school. Very much a member of the Christian Union. We were a very active club, and then on to university. And in Hall of Residence, I used to meet up with friends in the evening, and we used to worship together in the chapel. And that is where I met the first person who was a key influence in my spiritual life. And she was a nun, a member of the chaplaincy at the university. And I remember asking her about vocation. I had this notion that perhaps I might make a good priest. So I asked her all about vocation. And she advised me to go away for a year and to try and forget about it. And she said, if you've, at the end of the year, forgotten about it, you won't have a calling to be a priest. But if you've not been able to forget about it, you may. She qualified it in that way. So I went away for a year and I forgot about it. And from that point onwards, my faith didn't dissipate, but it was very much on the back burner for the whole of my professional life. So that's where the journey started, and that's where it halted, and it came back a little later on.
Okay, so as you reflect on all of that, is there a time when the roads felt very hard, and just what sustained you through that time?
Well, anybody's life is very hard, and certainly we had disasters in our lives like everybody else. There was one particular time when Joyce, my wife, was pregnant, and she got German measles, and sadly the baby had to be terminated. But within just a very few months after that, Joyce was pregnant again, and a glorious little girl came along, and that's our daughter Caroline, and she has been a great joy to us and her family ever since. So episodes such as that, whereas they were bleak, they did have silver linings around them. Then there was a second occasion when things went rather wrong, and that was when my father-in-law was very ill, and he decided that he couldn't continue with this, and he decided to take his own life. And that coincided with a great reorganization in my office where I worked. And I found myself with a job that I didn't think I was the right person for. I felt I could do better things. And sadly, that meant the end of my career. So that was a bleak moment. And it took a year for me to recover from that. But God was moving me along. I should have mentioned that in my teaching career, he made me teach RE, where I was a geography teacher. And when I went into local government, he made me be clerk to the Standing Advisory Council on Religious Education, which is a statutory body which exists to monitor the teaching of RE in county schools. So God was always there. He was speaking to me firstly through that nun, and then through my first head teacher, who asked me to teach RE, and secondly, from the deputy head in my second school, who, as well as being in charge of RE, gave me excellent advice on my career progression. And she was the person who told me to consider becoming an education officer. So after a year following my early retirement, we decided to move house. And there that was the best thing that ever could happen. We moved into a lovely little village, and that is where I rediscovered my faith, and that was nearly 25 years ago. And both Joyce and I lived a full life in the community. In my case, in the church. I became PCC secretary. I was a church warden. I was deanery secretary. So all these things were going on. We were doing alpha courses, and it really helped me in my spiritual growth. And I think that's what God wanted me to do. He didn't want me to be a priest. He wanted to be a key member of a village congregation. And then we decided a year or so ago that we needed to consider where we might live for the rest of our lives. And our daughter lives in Minchinhampton, just up the road. And we thought Tetbury would be just the ideal place to come and live. And sure enough, despite the fact that the last 2 or 3 months have been pretty awful for all of us, we've got no regrets about coming to live in this lovely little town. When I first found the church, you were away on your sabbatical, and I can remember walking into the church and being greeted by Peter, and he recognized me as a newcomer, and he said, would I like to sit with him and Hilary? And that was a marvellous introduction. Shortly met Geraldine and Bill and Michelle and lots of other people. And of course, today, every Sunday, we all look at each other on the screen, don't we, in our Zoom meetings. And Tetbury has proved to be such a very friendly place to live. We walk every day, and we say hello to all sorts of people and have short conversation with them. And we feel that this is the right place for us to be. And I'm quite sure that it was God who told me that this is where we should live in these latter years. And I think we're like lots of other people who've come to live in Tetbury. We've come to be near our families. And hopefully, very shortly, we'll be able to resume that relationship with our families instead of just looking at them on computer screens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So in all of that, your sense of the joys and blessings of your faith.
Yeah. It's great to be a member of a community of like-minded people who realize that there is depth to our lives, that there's a spiritual aspect to it. And that gives me comfort, and it gives me confidence, and it makes me feel positive, even in these difficult times, about where I am in the world and where we all are in the world. And we're all part of God's family. And we made that commitment that you were talking about on Whit Sunday, on Pentecost. And I'm very pleased to be part of that.